Hello and welcome to the Voice of the People. I'm your host, Dr. Kenneth Sr. I love enough to tell you the truth and I respect you enough to give you the facts. This show is sponsored by Myers Law, attorney Captain Myers at 803-250-1176. If you have a criminal case or a domestic case or a civil case, you get lawyered up. You call attorney Catherine Myers at 803-250-1176. We believe that God has given us the power and the knowledge to achieve what we're working for and what we're praying for. It matters not the situation, it matters not the opposition. We will prevail, we will experience victory because God is on our side. But you can pray until you faint. God is not going to drop anything in your lap, so we must put our faith in our gear and strategize and organize and move forward and take the vaccine. The harvest is plentiful, but the harvest is few. The question is, what are we going to do to save our lives? I suggest to you that we choose life over death. We know that God is the healer. We know that God had given us vessels. He's given us instruments to do the healing, to be the hand, the eyes, the feet. And one of those purposes in life as believers that we must participate in, we must save ourselves and save one another. And on that note, I want to encourage you to take the vaccine, to save yourself, save your family, and save your children. I don't want to engage in any rhetoric. I believe in science. I believe in the World Health Organization. I believe in the Center for Disease and Control. And I believe in DHEC. And I told you before, when the Delta variant infects you, and it's 1 o'clock in the morning and you can't breathe, and the ambulance come, they're not going to take you to the church. It's not going to take you to the State House. They're going to take you to ER, where healthcare professionals are risking their life to meet the needs of all of us. And you can be rest assured that it will be too late to be vaccinated after you're infected. I'm your host, Dr. Kenneth Myers Sr. I love enough to tell you the truth, and I respect enough to give you the facts. I believe that if we educate one another, if we love one another, if we have outreach to empower one another, then we'll be in a better situation in our communities. There can be no denying we're in a difficult space and time in our communities. In addition to the Delta variant, there's a crisis in our community with discrimination, lack of civil rights and human rights, with not adequate wages, housing discrimination, not having access to health care, criminal justice reform, cash bail. Public schools are miseducating and undereducating our children. So the breakup of the family, we have so much to deal with. But we must move forward and we must believe that we can help ourselves. And we pray to God to help us, to help ourselves. The first question I have tonight is from Brother Ben Johnson out of Edgefield, South Carolina. And he asked me the question is, what do you do if you're stopped by the police in public? Well, you need to know your rights. You have a right to remain silent. For example, you do not have to answer any questions about where you're going, where you are traveling from, what you are doing, or where you live. If you wish to exercise your right to remain silent, say so out loud. In some states, you may be required to provide your name if asked to identify yourself, and an officer may arrest you for refusing to do so. You do not have to consent to a search of yourself or your belongings, but police may pat you down, pat your clothing, if they suspect a weapon. Note, refusing consent may not stop the officer from carrying out the search against your will, but making a timely objection before or during the search can help preserve your rights in any later legal proceedings with your attorney. If you are arrested by the police, listen closely. You have the right to a government-appointed lawyer if you cannot afford one. You do not have to answer questions about where you were born, whether you are a U.S. citizen, or how you entered this country. How do you reduce risk to yourself when you're being stopped by the police? I want you to stay calm. Don't run. Don't resist. Don't obstruct the officers. Do not lie or give false documents. Keep your hands where the police can see them. What do you do if you're arrested or detained? Say you wish to remain silent. Ask for your lawyer immediately. Don't give any explanation or excuses. Don't do that. Don't say anything. Don't sign anything or make any decisions without your lawyer. If you've been arrested by police, you have the right to make a local phone call. The police cannot listen if you call a lawyer. They can and often do listen if you call anyone else. If you believe that your rights have been violated, write down everything you remember, including the officer's badges and patrol car numbers, which agency the officers were from, and any other details you might remember. Get contact information from witnesses. If you are injured, seek medical attention immediately and take photographs of your injuries. File a written complaint with the agency's Internal Affairs Division or Civilian Complaint Board, and in most cases, you will file a complaint without putting your name on it. What can you do if you think you are witnessing police abuse or brutality? Stand a safe distance, and if possible, use your phone to record. Make a video of what's happening. As long as you do not interfere with what the officers are doing and do not stand close enough to obstruct their movements, you have the right to observe and record events that are plainly visible in public spaces. Do not try to hide the fact that you're recording. Police officers do not have a reasonable expectation of privacy when performing their jobs, but the people they are interacting with may have privacy rights that will require you to notify them of the recording. Police officers may not compensate or demand to review your photographs or video without a warrant, and they may not delete your photographs or videos under any circumstances. Whether or not you're able to record everything, make sure you write down everything you remember, including the officer's badge and patrol car numbers, what agency the officers are working for, the presence of weapons. If you're able to speak to the person stopped by the police after the police leave, they may find your contact information helpful in case they decide to file a complaint or pursue a lawsuit against the officers. Those are some of the things you need to know if you're stopped by a police officer in public. I share this with you because we're having a lot of difficulty and a lot of situations in the black community when black men in particular are detained by police officers, and we want the best outcome, and we want witnesses, we want recordings, and we want to have a safe outcome. We don't want to be injured, shot. So remember, stay calm. Know your rights. Thank you for joining us this evening. We want to put that out there. A lot of people talk about violence in the community, but they never tell us what to do if we're stopped by the police. Now, some of the information I've just shared with you, obviously that information should be shared with your son and your nephew and young black males who find themselves in high school and public education in an environment where there's resource officers who are police officers, and your children need to know in particular that they have the same rights in public school that you have on the streets. And so this narrative about our children should be compliant and all telling with law enforcement officers in different spaces, I'm in total disagreement. And as you educate yourself and as you visit schools and as you talk to resource officers and as you talk to students and teachers and administrators, you will realize that about half of the people are in agreement with me and about another half are in opposition to what I say. I say that to assure you that it's two sides of the story. I love you enough to tell you the truth, and I respect you enough to give you the facts. We're having fun tonight just talking about stuff that other folks don't talk about. Another question I have for you that's quite serious, so we need to spend some time talking about it. Miss Jessie Johnson out of Spartanburg, South Carolina, sent me a text. I'm a school board member for Spartanburg School District 7, and I'm speaking now as an individual board member. From a personal perspective, I do not represent the collective voice of the school board. There's 9 of us, I'm only one of 9, and I speak as an individual, my perspective. But the parent asked me about what are we going to do in a couple of weeks of going back to public school, where the governor and state government have passed a law that we cannot mandate the wearing of the mask in school. We can't make the teachers take the vaccine and support staff. So what are we going to do? The school districts are been threatened if they make a decision requiring students to wear masks, and that they will lose funding from the Department of Education. And so we're in a difficult position. But as a parent, it's extremely important that you understand the options that you have. In most school districts, one option would be to go to virtual learning. I know in the upstate, most high schools have designated a certain number, maybe 200 or 300 folks that can do virtual learning. I'm talking about high school now. Of course, we have virtual learning in elementary school and middle school. And so what process will the various school districts use and the schools to give folks an equal opportunity to not come to school and not put their kids at risk and to do virtual learning? That's the big question. Now, the question that they're talking about in private, and then folks are not talking about it in public, but I'm going to talk about it on the Voice of the People. Because as a parent, let's be real, we have to protect our children. First of all, their safety. You don't want your child to go to school and catch the Delta variant and die. We do not want that at all. The option of virtual school, some folks are saying that some kids cannot benefit from virtual learning. Most educators and most parents and most folks who've been involved in this for the last 15 or 20 years have come to the conclusion, and you might agree, you might disagree, that a child basically have to be reading on grade level to maximize their opportunity for virtual learning. So children who are behind, who are not on grade level, who are not reading at basic level, are at risk for further challenges. Now, it's another problem. Everybody knows in public education that middle-class parents, parents who are educated, parents who are connected, and parents who are involved, they get first choice. Then we got teachers, they have kids, they get first choice. So we've always had a problem in public education, whether you know it or not, with school choice, with children of color, black children, and parents with low incomes. Because one of the barriers to schools of choice is transportation. So what will a parent do? Let's talk real for a minute. If you're upper middle class, it's a good chance you'll be working from home, so your kids will stay home, and you will monitor their school activities online or for virtual learning, and you will help them. And the kid is going to do fine. The kid is probably already reading at proficient level or grade level. No problem. So now you have a poor parent that's working 2 or 3 jobs, and he or she cannot stay at home to supervise the children. So you got elementary kids, middle school kids, and high school kids, I think, need to have structure and supervision. So we'll have 80% of our kids, parents, have decisions that's very difficult to make. Will you tell your kid to go to school and wear the mask? And will your kid keep the mask on if the teacher's not wearing the mask, if her peers are not wearing the mask? These are some emotional situations that could cause some anxiety for elementary kids, middle school kids, and high school kids. Some of the teachers have said they're going to take the vaccine. Some have said they're not. Some kids have to ride the bus to school. A crowded bus is a very toxic environment. And some kids wear the mask and other kids don't wear the mask. And the kids that don't wear the mask, they go back home. Another question remains, is the household vaccinated? Yes, I'm asking that question. Every home should be vaccinated. Everybody in the household, 12 years old and older. Now, if they're under 12, we don't have a vaccine for them. But the rest of the folks got to get vaccinated to protect the very young children. This is not complicated. This is not a religious issue. This is not a political issue. This is a public health issue. And so those are the challenges we have that's coming right in our face in about 14 days. Then we have the kids in high school. Now the question is, As parents, do you make a decision of life or death over your children, or do the children make the choice of life or death? If the child refuses to take the vaccine and goes to school and can bring the Delta variant back to the family, that's a bad situation. So everybody's talking about it, but each family have to make their own decision. Kids that's in elementary school, if they're over 12 years of age, their parents, if they make a decision to vaccinate the family and keep everybody safe, I think if you talk to them, if you ask them a question, I think they want to live. I think all children desire to live. I think all adults, we desire to live. But this Delta variant crisis and this confusion we got about politicians making rules about public health have put a lot of parents in a difficult position. If it was me, if I was a parent and I had a kid that was 13, 14, or 15, I would demand that they get vaccinated to save their lives and the lives of other folks in the household. If I had kids in the household under 12, I would make sure that everybody in the household was vaccinated to protect those younger persons. That is my thought process. That is my value system. That is me accepting the knowledge of researchers and healthcare professionals from the World Health Organization, for the Center for Disease and Control, and DHEC. Now, for you folks out here who having these opinions and you're spreading this misinformation that you get from Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, shame on you. Let me share something with you that I don't want to happen. I don't want you to get all political and grandstanding about your rights as a citizen, because you never cared about the rights of other folks anyway. But you don't want your child to go to school and get that Delta variant, and you go and they call you from the hospital and they're on ventilator and they die, and you had an opportunity to save their life by making a tough decision to get them vaccinated to protect them from death. So this conversation that we're having about the Delta variant and the vaccine and going back to school and parents and choices and options is very serious. That's why I'm talking about it. I'm talking about it because it's very serious. Now, some folks say, I've had some people tell me this, educators, children need to learn. Yes, they do. But I have a counter argument to that. In the black community, the majority of black kids, about 85%, they go to high school, they go to public school for 12 years, and they leave there with about 6 or 7 years of education. About 85% of black students in South Carolina graduate with a D or D minus. And so it stands to reason that during this time and during this crisis, it's okay if they miss school and live. And if the kids are reading on grade level and they're proficient, it is in this season, it's okay if they don't go to school. Now I have a point of knowledge I'd like to share with you. And I think you will agree. Education, the public school system, can let a kid go for 9 months and they fail, and they can go for 2 months in the summer and get credit for that course. So really, just to make a C, you could basically go to school 2 months. So most of the other months have been feeding the institution and feeding the industry and feeding the jobs and all that. So summer school has proven that you don't need to go to school 9 months, especially if you're reading and grade level, are proficient, and have family support. So don't get twisted. Don't get it all jumbled up. Parents, your first priority, listen closely, your first priority is to save the life of your child. Listen closely. Your first priority is to save the life of your child. So if you're uncomfortable sending a kid to school that teachers won't get the vaccine, won't wear the mask, bus drivers won't wear a mask, won't get vaccinated, the school is crowded, infection rates are going up, the Delta variant is a killer and it's affecting young folks, I say the decision should be made to save the life of your child, and you will have time enough to educate them if you save their life. Now, you hadn't heard that perspective out there in the public, but every parent has to make a decision to save their life or to educate them. So I suggest you do the first decision to save their life, and the second decision is get them educated, but they have to be alive for that to happen. So don't let people force you in the next couple of weeks saying you got to make a decision. You have to make a decision to save the life of your child. Don't let anybody intimidate you. The safety of the children are in the hands of the parents, not the governor, not the state house, not the school district. The safety of the child is in the hands of the parent. I'm your host, Dr. Kenneth Myers Sr. I love you enough to tell you the truth, and I respect you enough to give you the facts. I just thought it was important that we talk about this situation of public school and parents and children and the Delta variant from a real perspective. We do not want loss of life for our children because we are grandstanding about our political affiliation, our religious affiliation. We want to make sound decisions for the safety of our children based on good medical advice. Now, I know a lot of people don't have a primary care physician. Go to a clinic, go to a pharmacist. Go online and read from the Center of Disease and Control and the World Health Organization. The decisions that you make in the next couple of weeks will determine life or death for your children and for yourself and your family and your community. Anybody else that's saying otherwise, shame on them. I believe that God has given us the power and the knowledge to achieve what we're working for and praying for. And in this situation, it's the safety of our children and ourselves and our communities. Now, they're reporting in the news that in the state of South Carolina, close to 45 or 50% of eligible residents of South Carolina have been fully vaccinated. White folks are 70%, black folks about 30%. They failed to report that in the black community that we're sagging way behind. We're between 23 and 30% fully vaccinated in the black community. That means that 70% of the black community is unprotected, and the Delta variant is going to come and destroy us. We must take this very serious. You can't wish it away. You can't wish it away. This is real. We've had 2 years of seeing death through COVID-19 and now the Delta variant. Now, here's something very important I want to share with you. I hope that you can process this information, particularly in the black community. We've been disproportionately affected by this COVID-19. Listen, if we don't get vaccinated in our community and the Delta variant comes to our community, it has the possibility of mutating into a different virus that's twice as strong and to kill us by larger numbers. We have to fight this Delta variant. The only weapon that we have is taking the vaccine. And something else that's very important, I want to clear up for you. A lot of folks listen to news, they get confused. Some folks told me, say, you might have a breakthrough infection, a breakthrough infection. Listen closely. I take the flu shot every year. And most of the years that I take the flu shot, I have an infection from the flu. But the symptoms are very mild because I've taken the vaccine. Let that sink in for a minute. With the vaccine, the Pfizer and all that, we're protected from the Delta variant. And if there's a breakthrough infection and we get infected, the symptoms are not going to be where we go to ICU and we die. So understand the best protection, the best benefit we can get to save our children, to save ourselves, to save our community, our churches, is to get the vaccine. I'm your host, Dr. Kenneth Myers Sr. I love enough to tell you the truth. I respect enough to give you the facts. God put on my heart to talk to you, and I just believe that we got to talk to one another and we got to encourage one another. And I love you enough to tell you the truth. And I respect you enough to give you the facts. You are worthy of life. You are deserving of life. Your life has value. We do not want to stop burying our children 13, 14, 15 years of age. We must do what we can do to help ourselves. I pray to God that we exercise our faith by making tough, decisive decisions right now today to protect our children, to protect the household. Everybody in the household must be vaccinated if you're over 12 years of age to protect the kids who are younger and to protect all of us. And this situation about sending your kids to a school where nobody's wearing no mask and there's no social distancing and the teachers and administrators and coaches, everybody, you don't know whether they've been vaccinated or not. I say that we must choose life over education. I said it. We must always choose life over everything because nothing else is important if you're dead. I'm your host, Dr. Kenneth Myers Sr. I love enough to tell you the truth, and I respect enough to give you the facts. I have a lot of friends of mine. I'm involved in a political party. A lot of people are talking about these surveys or these town meetings that are going around letting people voice their concerns about the redistricting related to the census count, which has not been reported yet. I want to share something for you for deductive reasoning and critical thinking. Listen closely. I know you watch CNN. I know you watch MSNBC. I know you watch Fox. The state of South Carolina and Georgia, the House is majority Republican, the Senate is majority Republican, and the governors are Republican. Do you actually think that the Republicans are going to listen to you at a town hall meeting and change their agenda, and their whole agenda is to do what's best for their party and to stay in power? I don't need to say anything else about that. So when people invite you to meetings and the agenda has already been finalized, be careful about people engaging in deep listening and smile at you and putting little stickies on the wall and telling you about, we want to hear how you feel. We want to hear about your lived experience. And they write all those notes down and they give you some water, some cookies, and some cheese and grapes and strawberries. That is a strategy. Listen closely. That is a strategy. Now, what you should do at that meeting is demand that 5 or 6 of you go with those stickers on the wall, that you go to the table that the decisions are being made the next day about 9 o'clock in the morning. Don't let people take advantage of you. Town hall meetings, panel discussions, they are only what they are. A panel discussion is a panel discussion, nothing else. A town hall meeting is a town hall meeting, nothing else. I'm your host, Dr. Kenneth Myers Sr. I love enough to tell you the truth, and I respect enough to give you the facts. It would be wrong to have the show tonight and not talk to you and warn you about what's coming up on August the 15th. I'm talking to men and women. I believe in gun ownership. I believe in responsible gun ownership. I believe in every household and every vehicle should be protected with a firearm. If you buy a firearm, I think you should get training with it, know how to clean it, and know how to operate that weapon. The life that you defend and save could be you, your family members, or someone else. We have a situation in this country that things are going to change in the next couple of days. And everybody, good and bad, will be walking around with open carry weapons. And it's been proven by statistics that armed citizens are less likely to get killed than unarmed citizens, particularly with black males. So let's be good citizens. Let's organize. Let's strategize. Let's vote. Let's control our money. Let's keep our money in our communities. And let's lift one another up. I'm going to repeat. Let's lift one another up. Let's not be divided by class, by education, by dress, by color. Let's love one another. Let's collectively study, particularly in our churches. Let's start studying and have a Saturday morning class for our history so our children will know where they come from and whose they are and the history of their ancestors so they can absorb the power of the generation before them. I'm your host, Dr. Kenneth Myers Sr. I love enough to tell you the truth. I respect enough to give you the facts. I give you the word like the Spirit gives to me. Do what you can do, how you can do it, when you can do it, the best you can do it. And that's all we can do. But we forever stand up with our backs against the wall and fight for our rights, for ourselves, our family. And we are Americans and we love America. We made this country great. You pray for me and I pray for you.